But the other part of it, which I think is probably more important, is you knew you had to go into the courtroom to get the kind of remedy that was necessary. And the filing didn't have a whole bunch of goofiness in there, correct, Tyler? But actually, an attorney adopted it, right?
Yes. Yeah, actually, two different attorneys in two different states adopted it. And they argued it. I mean, the court case in Massachusetts, it was literally 11 minutes. We were in there, she read the motion, they vacated the order. It was very, very fast. It was in and out.
David, you have anything you want to ask him?
No, I'm just catching up. I didn't get the backstory.
All right. The backstory is we went to court in Florida on January 22nd. On January 17th, I filed in Massachusetts because I knew that Florida only had so much power. So I had to go at Massachusetts. So when I filed that, Florida denied my motion with prejudice. I had to vacate that. We vacated that. What is this? Because it's not an order, it's a recommendation. So we vacated that recommendation, and then we went to court in Massachusetts, won. Now we're just waiting on I got $44,651.90 reversed. I owe them $0 now. And funny thing is, I want to get my passport. So I called Massachusetts yesterday, and as soon as I hung up with them, they were like, no, there's nothing we could do. And then as soon as I hung up with them, they called me back immediately and said, sir, we just got an email that says you owe $0, that your case had been vacated and you owe $0. In our system, zero. Your arrears are nothing. So now I've got to go back in front of the judge in I don't know when. We wrote the Florida order on January 23rd. It was filed. We're still waiting.
What was the basis for the vacation? Is it lack of jurisdiction for Florida?
Yes, it was lack of jurisdiction, lack of subject matter. They denied me with prejudice, and they said that because the very first steps in my case, because the very first steps in my case wasn't the lack of jurisdiction, the lack of subject matter, that I complied with the order. And that's he
argued personal jurisdiction for you, but he didn't want to touch the issue of subject matter, which is kind of similar to my case with Smallwood. But what we did was Tyler had somebody. I guess we should probably try to bring that attorney in for a podcast episode daily, and he was willing to adopt the motion that was drafted, and apparently the judge just ruled properly.
There was no properly or improperly.
No, the judge properly ruled in Massachusetts. The hearing officer in Florida would have made more sense for him to just have said, well, I'm going to set this off until there's a definitive ruling in Massachusetts, because the underlying Florida action was based upon the Massachusetts case.
Right. You should have probably done a continuation or stayed until the Massachusetts issue was handled.
I think that's a little bit more personal with him and Tyler.
Yeah, but it still doesn't matter, because I mean, you can raise jurisdictional issue
anytime. I get it. I think his decision was probably a little bit more personal.
It was definitely personal, because he didn't even, like, when we came out, we were fighting the hearing officer. Nobody else said anything. It was between the attorney.
Not physical though, right?
No, not physical, but you could tell, like, he cut him off. He cut my attorney off, like, hey, have you ever are you familiar with this? Read it, and then that was it. And then he actually told me on record to be quiet and don't say anything else. So then when it came time like as soon as we hung up, I told my lawyer, I was like, hey, how did he deny us with prejudice? I've already got a court date for March 13th in Massachusetts. And he was like, well, why didn't you say anything? I was like, he clearly told me to be quiet and do not speak.
Well, that would have been a little bit smaller of the issue, a smaller portion of the issue. I'm expecting that once you all get your hearing and your attorney will push that forward because you have 15 days and they'll essentially, I think it's within 30 days have to, well, I shouldn't be speaking because they damn sure didn't set them for me. Well, no, they did for Miss Oster, Judge Oster. So you'll go back in front of the judge in about 30 days and your attorney will be able to explain the Massachusetts court having discovered it had no subject matter jurisdiction because it failed to properly adequately serve within, I think it was 90 days in Massachusetts.
Yes, 90 days.
Yeah, the 90 days, and then they, the court just does the right thing. I know Brett's probably, I know he doesn't drink, but he probably wants to take a shot or something. They just did the right thing. They just read the law for what it was. Why we're having a difficulty in Florida, I don't really know, man.
I mean, what is the issue with Florida now, though? Is Massachusetts have taken care of the?
We're gonna see. We're gonna see. The Massachusetts court did the right thing, kind of like and give everybody the background on how to, if they want to say something, Daily, so I can bring on the guys.
Oh, if you're on a tablet or phone, tap the screen, look for the reaction button and raise your hand on that. Hit the hand raise emoji, and then Greg will unmute you.
So, Brett, you have anything to say about that? The Florida hearing officer is acting pretty much par for the Florida course. But that's actually, I think, the first DCA up there. What county are you in, Tyler? In Florida?
D-Land. It's D-Land is where it's out of.
DeLand. What county?
Volusia.
My experience is we know the law's in our favor, at least in the issues that I'm having, but they're simply just not following the law, apparently. But it sounds like Massachusetts is. That's great, man. Congratulations. That's what should be happening. I mean, I don't mind that the courts have jurisdiction to resolve disputes. I think that's a good thing, but that means you got to be they have to be following the law and not put the burden on us to prove them wrong, which I think in Florida, in my opinion, based on my experience, so Greg didn't get upset, essentially they circle the wagons whenever they're wrong and then force you to file an appeal, which just forces you further down the road to spend more money and spend more time defending what's clearly black letter law that's already on the books from in my position, the second DCA or the Supreme Court of Florida.
Hey, Brett, talk about what we talked about when I was going to the doctor today. The litigation thing you were talking about.
I'm sorry, say that part again. You're far away from the mic.
Remember today when I was going to the doctor, we had a conversation about litigation. You called it something else, like warfare.